Hello!
How's it
Hey
going?
guys,
Welcome to the Supabase Happy Hour.
welcome.
It has been a while, but we are back. We're not really back. We're not doing this weekly, but we're here for a special launch week 8 version of the Supabase Happy Hour. If you haven't heard, we are launching another launch week, and I just realized I'm not sharing my screen. This would make more sense if you could see this 8 that's slowly rotating around. Next week is launch week number 8. And if you don't know what a Supabase launch week is, it's a time where we basically launch a new feature every single day of the week. And so make sure you keep coming back to this page, supabase.com/launch week, to see all of the different things that we are launching. And what is a cool thing about this 8?
Every single one of them is a dot.
Every single one of them is a dot.
What
What
does it
do the
represent?
dots represent?
Yeah. What does it represent, Alistair?
No, it's tickets, isn't it, John? I feel like
Oh,
you should show us your ticket. It's,
All right.
oh
Okay.
yeah.
If we scroll down, we can join in on this, and we can connect with GitHub. Oh, this is going to ask me
he's
for...
not signed in every time.
Oh, no. Let's see if I can show all my passwords on the screen during the... good. It opened on the other screen. Security. So when we sign in with GitHub and then scroll down, we see this beautiful ticket. And this one's gold because I've gone through and made my ticket gold. But this is my ticket to the Supabase Launch Week 8. And I have now joined this constellation of rotating little dots. It'd be very cool if it showed you which dot you were.
Oh yeah.
Little label floating around saying you are here. It would be very cool. But every single one of these dots represents a ticket that someone has generated to come to Launch Week 8, which is very exciting.
Really awesome.
But I just realized we didn't explain. It's been a long time since we've done these intros. Okay, I just jumped straight into this. But welcome to the Supabase Happy Hour. This is a time where we get to build some cool stuff and hang out and build some fun stuff with Supabase. But we should do some introductions. My name is John. I'm a developer advocate from Supabase. Tyler, who are you?
I'm Tyler. I'm also a developer advocate at Supabase.
And I'm Alistair. I'm not a developer advocate at Supabase.
Not yet. You're still trying.
Yeah.
Is that allowed? Can I define myself by what I'm not?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not coming to the DevRel meeting though.
Involved in everything, and so he is part DevRel, he is part software engineer, he is part back-end person, part front-end person. He basically just moves around the teams fixing Supabase. It's great.
Well, I'm supposed to be on the front-end team or the dashboard team, so if you notice something broken in there, you can blame me.
Absolutely. And right now is the perfect time. You have all of us locked here. This is the perfect time to get all of your support questions answered. So drop them in. Drop them in the comments, and yeah, we can help you out. We have some comments. This is the other thing that we did. I remember all this. Alex is saying hi. They are a Flutter developer, which is very exciting.
I'm also a Flutter developer.
Yeah, Tyler is our Flutter expert.
Resident Flutter developer, yeah.
Yeah. I have... Oh, no, we are bringing the support questions. I have a question with channel in Dart and Flutter. Well, yeah, chuck the question in the comments. We can see if we can answer it now.
Yeah.
And Thinkverse is saying hello and good evening, everybody, or night as it is for me. It's early in the morning for us three. We're living in the future. So I'm in Melbourne, Australia. Alistair, where are you?
I'm just outside in Melbourne, Australia.
Sweet. I
Tyler,
usually am in
whereabouts are you?
Japan. Yeah, I'm usually living in Japan, but I'm visiting Thailand right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. You're
Yeah.
traveling. Good
I
job.
am. Yeah.
Good job
The
joining
Wi-Fi is
the.
luckily pretty decent here, so
That is
That's
very
yeah,
nice.
lucky.
it's working out. Yeah, that is very lucky.
Yeah, and we've got Yuri in the comments, our most recent developer advocate. Yeah, welcome to the stream. We should have had you on. We should have.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you'd still be awake. What time is it where you are, Yuri? Alex is in Portugal, and Mark's joining us as well. Another Supabase.
Thanks, Mark.
That's awesome. Alistair, love your haircut. You're looking dapper, like a dapper young man. You are. Very nice.
Is he making a pun on my last name?
Oh,
Ah.
Hmm.
rude. I've got a golden ticket. Twinsies, yes. So
Ooh.
everyone can have a golden ticket. You can turn your ticket gold, and that will put you in the running to win some swags. It's 2 a.m. in Malawi, Africa, and
Sweet.
8 p.m. for Yuri. So
That's more the actual happy hour time. Like.
Right. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is, yeah, that is the perfect happy hour time. It's just Thursday, not Friday, because it's Friday for us in the APAC region. But for the rest
Fair
of the
enough.
world, it's still the past. So yeah, it's still Thursday for the rest of you. Tyler.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
How can I subscribe to table with filter column name is null?
All right, that
Good
might
question.
need to
Is this
be
possible? Yeah.
maybe a support ticket, or hassle Tyler on Twitter. That's
Yeah,
a good
if you
place
could
to.
open a GitHub issue.
Yeah.
I guess I never tried it. Yeah. I'm gonna have to try it out. Yeah.
For sure. And it is 2 a.m. in Sweden. See, this is the golden time for the happy hour. This is what we've found every time we've done a happy hour, that people seem to only join us at 2 a.m. their time, which, funnily enough, if I share my screen again, the tweet that got us excited to do this. Oh, I'm not signed into Twitter.
X.
All right. Someone
Nobody's
tweeted
calling it
saying
X.
you should totally do, or someone tweeted saying they were enjoying the happy hour series, which kind of prompted us to be like, hey, we should do a happy hour. Launch week is happening. We should do a launch week special. And then I tagged them this morning, and they said, sorry, it'll be 2 a.m. my time, so I can't join. And like that's the time that you join. 2 a.m. is the golden time for joining the happy hour. Maybe not for everyone.
Yeah, too bad.
Zanova is saying, hey, everyone. And Nuno is saying, hey. So yeah, welcome to the happy hour. Yeah, back to these launch week things. So launch week 8 is happening next week. We're launching a whole bunch of cool stuff. If you check out supabase.com/launchweek, this page will change each day to show the feature that we're launching, which will be very cool. But for now, come down and generate your ticket, and then you can turn it gold and go in the have your chance to win some super cool exclusive swag. And if you have not checked out our store, if I go to, is it store.supabase.com? It is. If you have a look, these stickers are worth $500. That is some very fancy top level stickers. So it's like this shirt. Oh, I guess that's the 50K shirt. But this launch week 7 shirt from last launch week, $500,000. This is the value of the prizes that we are just giving away if you turn your ticket gold. And also if you join the hackathon, which is also happening. So the hackathon is kicking off. Well, I guess it hasn't quite started, has it?
No. Yeah, it hasn't started yet, I think. Well, does it have a time? Yeah.
Yeah, so 9 a.m.
Okay, yeah.
PT of PT's tomorrow, which is out today. So yeah, very confusingly, it hasn't started yet, but it will start tomorrow. So yeah, get your teams together and read through this page to work out what the different categories are that you can build, what sorts of things you should be working on, and then prizes. You get awesome prizes. Again, some super dope exclusive swag that, as we just saw, has extremely high value and surely would have even higher resale value. So yeah, get on that. It will be fun. Thinkverse is saying, so I can make some money if I sell Launch Week 7 shirt on the black market. Exactly. Well, the Launch Week 7 shirts, I guess you can still buy them from the store for $500,000, but I think the resale value on those for being a winner of last year would definitely be higher than just buying it from the store. So you could probably get, I don't know, $1 million, maybe 1.2 million for that. Yeah, very high resale value. It's 2 a.m. in South Africa. See, perfect time. This is what the happy hour stream is about.
It's worth saying as well, on the launch week meetup page, on the launch week page, there's a few meetups happening, and one of them I think is in Cape Town. So if you're in South Africa and near Cape Town, I'm very upset, John. Like, we could be doing one in Melbourne. We could
I know.
be having a great time.
When I saw that these community meetups were being organized all over the world, that was my first thought. Was like, Alistair hassles me weekly about running a meetup here in Melbourne. This was our perfect golden opportunity, and we didn't take it.
Well,
but if you
next launch week,
there will be one here in Melbourne, Australia. Get your plane tickets if you are not in Melbourne. It will be the best, most official one on the list. But for this launch week 8, there are community meetups that are happening in Cape Town, Amsterdam, Singapore, Kenya, and London. And so this will be like a watch party going through what we're launching. And also, I think there are some talks and things. And yeah, it will be an awesome time. So if you're in any of these cities or close to these cities, go check out the community meetup.
Very jealous.
Sweet. I am very jealous. Maybe we should do a meetup, Alistair. We should just hang out. See, the problem is with us in Australia, if we're doing a live stream, the time would be like 1 a.m.
Are they all happening at the same time?
I thought they were. I thought it was doing like a. Oh no, they're on different.
I don't think
days.
so. Yeah, I think they're just generally hosted during the nighttime. So
we should have done it. We should have done it.
Next launch week.
Next year. That's what I did with my merch box. So Yuri hocked her merch box and sold it for more than you could buy it on the store. That's very good. Fixel is going to the Cape Town one. Excellent.
nice.
Kenya is sold out. Yeah, some of them are sold out because there has been a whole bunch of excitement about these community meetups. So get in quickly and maybe just message us or the organizer if you really want a ticket, and maybe it can happen. And Yuri's confirming they are not all at the same time. So I lied about that. They're at, convenient, reasonable times, not just locking everyone into, PT convenient times. Cool. So what else do we have going on? So launch week is happening. That's fun. What we wanted to kind of go through in this happy hour, as you can see, we're not quite as prepared as we usually are. We're sort of like pretty busy with launch week things, but we thought it'd be fun just to get together and do a stream and show some of the cool stuff we've been working on. So this stream should be totally interactive, and post lots of questions and comments and things in the chat, and we can kind of steer it different ways. But the overall plan was to kind of go through some of the new Next.js things that we've been working on, and show off this awesome new template that you can use to get up and running with Supabase and Next.js very, very quickly. So ask us any questions that you have.
What should we build, I guess? That's another question. Right?
yeah.
What do you want us to build? What do you want to see on the stream?
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to build some kind of small example app. We might not be able to build out a whole massive thing that we have done over several streams previously. But yeah, we want to build out some kind of example using this with Supabase template. So this is the template here. So this is our Supabase starter. You can just click the deploy button to go directly to prod. I think that's working. Give it a go. And then the way that we'll step through is you can now use the Create Next App CLI tool, which is like Next's CLI tool for creating a Next.js application. And you can pass it an example of with Supabase, and that is going to get you set up with everything that you need to get started with Supabase and Next.js. So maybe we'll just start without this template, and we'll go through a little bit about why you actually need the things that are in this template. So let's create a new application. All right, first problem, we need a name.
I found quite a fun site recently that I didn't know existed, and what's it called? It's like you know that one that gives you photos of the people that don't exist. There's
like
a one for words. So there's like this word does not exist.com. It's a great time. Yeah, and I've been using it to name things.
That's fantastic. Wait, it chooses words that don't exist, like it just gives you a random word.
And it gives a definition, but have a look. Hopefully it doesn't put up some crazy words.
What am I looking for?
This word does not exist.com.
This word does not exist.com. Nick. Relating to or involving the interaction of geotropics. A word that does not exist. It was invented, defined, and used by a machine learning algorithm. Okay. So it just kind of like combines some vowels and consonants in a thing that might be a word, and then uses AI to generate a believable,
yeah.
I like it. All right, this is the name of our app. Nobody make me say it again, but we'll call it the G app.
I prefer what we've got some suggestions in chat there.
Oh, right.
Wonder Wolf.
Unicorn poop. That's a pretty good one. Wonder Waffy? Wonder Waif?
Yeah,
does that
mean
mean
what
something?
the definition was for that one?
Right. Let's refresh this a couple of times. What else do we get? Polyanimax. Okay. At least I can pronounce this one. Let's go with Polyanimax.
Yeah.
Sounds more like a product.
Do we forget the -e or?
We'll start without the template.
Oh, okay.
Just to show why we might need this. So are we going to use TypeScript for this?
Of course we are, John.
Yeah.
I'm here.
You are. And you know what? I've become okay with TypeScript. The thing that made TypeScript click for me was Supabase generating all of the types for you, and me not having to do this anymore. If you want to see an example of that, I'll plug this at the end as well. But I put out a course recently where you can build a Twitter clone using the Next.js app router and Supabase. And if you have a look at this one, generate TypeScript definitions from PostgreSQL schema with Supabase CLI. So this was the thing that made TypeScript totally easy for me, was that Supabase can do all of that for you. So yes, we will do TypeScript. We want ESLint. We're going to use Tailwind. Oh, we can style it like one of our classic awful looking Happy Hour Tailwind projects.
Well, CB in chat was asking anything with real-time chat, and luckily for you, we've got a whole series of who knows how many videos it was. It was
12, 13, 15.
Yeah, where we built a beautifully styled real-time chat app. It didn't look like a 4-year-old had made it at all.
It was a 5-year-old. Come on, 5. We leveled up.
Yeah, in YouTube there should be a whole playlist for that.
Somewhere. I think that was using Remix as well, which would be a fun one to go and learn.
Was it? Was that the one?
No, I think that one. Yeah, that one was Next.js. I think.
Did we build a SaaS? Was that what we did? Was that one with Remix?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's a whole history of these Supabase happy hours to go and watch. I think it was at one point, I remember when we went over 24 hours, but that would have been ages ago. We probably would have, because we've had, I don't even know what number this is. Oh, this is number 27. Okay, so we've got 27. So let's say the previous 26. I don't know why I couldn't just do this in my head, but that's like 52 hours of happy hour content. So go back and check out how to build an awesome real-time thing. Maybe we can do real-time. We'll see. We'll see how much time we have. We're thinking that maybe we could go through this template a little bit and explain why we've built it and what it does. And then if people are really keen, maybe we could do this again next week and actually try and build something from scratch. So get all of this justification for why we do things this way out of the way, get all the theory out of the way, and then next week we could jump straight in and build an app from scratch. And in that case, we would totally have enough time to build a full working real-time application.
In 2 hours, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There was that time, there is another happy hour where we tried to do that and spectacularly failed. Because I made a mistake early on that cost us an hour of time trying to debug what was going on. So you should go and watch that if you want to watch us spectacularly fail. And you should watch next week's happy hour if you want to watch us succeed at doing that. All right. We are going to not use the source directory with this, and we are going to use the app router, and we don't want to customize the import alias. So basically, we just selected all of the defaults for our Next.js application. While that's scaling up, what do we have in the chat? A person who gambles in a situation in which winnings from each bet are determined only by deductive reasoning. Oh, this is the definition. This isn't what you're expecting us to build. This is what Wonderdoff means. Wonderwaff. Okay. I was thinking that's we probably shouldn't build a gambling app live on the stream.
Like that idea.
Might get us in hot water depending on which countries we're being viewed from. Please, some insights on table relations will be appreciated. Okay, well, yeah, maybe we will build something with relationships across multiple tables. And yes, Zenobia, any is going to be used frequently as soon as I hit any problem.
Watch some previous streams.
Yeah, any is your friend, definitely. All right, we have a project, and while we're actually, what we should have done while we were stalling is create a new Supabase project. So actually, I'm going to go to the even cooler URL of database.new, and that.
You don't want to do the local dev flow. Have we shown that off on stream before?
I knew you were going to say this.
It's so good, though.
All right, if you can step me through it. I think I have Docker.
Well, change directory into your new poly Animex, whatever
Poly
it was.
Animex.
Will it work great with the streaming, though? Depending on your machine power, I guess?
Oh, it'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, make sure you got Docker right. This is, if everyone always talks about how good the M1 battery life is and all of that, but as soon as I open Docker, I can kill it in an hour and a half. To be fair, I am running 11 containers at once just for the Supabase local dev stack. But the M1 can be killed, or the M2. I don't have an M2 yet. But.
Well, let me know if the stream starts degrading significantly. Let us know in the comments, and we can just quit this and create a prod version. But once Docker is up and running, well, we can start writing out the command. So I'm using npx to run an npm package directly. Supabase is the CLI tool that we're going to use. And then init. Easy.
Yeah. I've never run it with npx before, I just installed it via Homebrew.
Yeah, same here.
I think it is allowed.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's fine. Do we want to generate? Nah.
No.
And that's it. We're
so
done.
while we're waiting for Docker to spin up, if you open VS Code, we can have a look at what that command actually did. John with his fancy commands.
Yeah.
So there's a new, if we open this before, there wasn't a Supabase directory, but now there is, which contains just your config file, which is all the different stuff for the local Supabase, and also a seed file. And I want to show the whole proper migration flow because it's, I think, underused.
My
but
goodness.
Then we could do the diff flow so we can still use the UI. That would be pretty wild.
Dope. Let's do this. I like it. All right. So we've got our Supabase directory. We've got our Next.js application, which is just showing our the default template. So if we run npm run dev and go to, oh my God, Docker's taking its time to start up.
Why is it still starting? That's a good sign.
We're off to a good start. Maybe I'll try restarting it while it's still trying to start up.
Oh, it's jumping up and down now.
Good. All right, this is our Next.js application that we've created. And so, yeah, this just has the basic template of all of this stuff. So if we were to get rid of everything other than this main div, by main div, I mean main element, and say, hello, happy hour. And then go here, we see hello, happy hour. So yeah, we've got a project up and running. Any changes that we make will immediately be reflected in the browser. And I think Docker's gonna be too difficult for this.
It's still starting.
Yeah, let's.
Oh, wow.
I have this wonderful thing that I've been running recently. Docker kill, Docker PSQ, kill all of my running containers.
Well, that's only going to work though if Docker's actually up and running.
Okay, I don't know what I've done then.
Well, we'll try it for like one more minute because it's nice.
It is nice. It's yeah. Sorry, to give some context, if Docker wasn't being a problem on my machine, what we're doing is we now have an awesome local development workflow where you can create a local Supabase instance and get your developer keys and everything else, create edge functions, everything locally. And then if we have time, we'll be creating a migration where we essentially like commit all of that information, all of that, like all the changes to our Supabase instance to Git along with our code for our Next.js application. And so then when we push this up to GitHub, all of that like structural information about what we've done with our Supabase instance is also saved alongside our code, which means if we're working collaboratively with other people, they can pull down those changes, they can run those migrations against their local instance, and it's a way that we can kind of work together on a Supabase project, and a way that you can kind of create those different environments. So you can have your local development environment, you can have maybe staging and production, and yeah, makes all of that possible. This command is still hanging, and I think I killed Docker
dashboard.
Sorry?
Open up the Docker dashboard, like in the drop down thing at the top. Oh, where is Docker even gone?
Come on, Docker, you can do this. Don't just bounce.
What have you done to your poor Docker?
I don't know. I think I forcefully killed it, and it's decided it doesn't want to.
Yeah, it's gone forever.
Okay, the Supabase side works really well. It's just me.
I feel like stream takes up a lot of the juice from the machine.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah. Like screen sharing, I think it uses a lot of the power, I think.
For sure. All right. Looks like we're not going with Docker. But
so sad.
if you watch the upcoming launch week, this isn't like a super spoiler about something that's coming, but there is a video that I've just put together that actually goes through a lot of this workflow. So stay tuned for that, and you can check out this awesome local development flow in which I had Docker completely working, which it is deciding not to do now. But if it kicks in and starts working in the stream, we can always swap out our Supabase instance fairly easily. In fact, Alistair can show us how we can pull down changes from a remote Supabase instance and apply those to our local version, and then make changes, create a migration, and then push those migrations back up. So there's still hope for you, Docker. It might still work. But
Come
for
back
now,
next week, when in between now and then we'll have fixed John's Docker setup.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay. So next week we will create an app from scratch, and in that one, we'll start from a local instance of Supabase and show all of that stuff as well. That's an excellent idea. But for now, we can create a new project. I'm going to create it in the examples organization. The name for this one is going to be
What was it?
Enum Next.
It sounds like a shipping company, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can. Yes. All right. I'm going to click this button to generate a super secure SQL password for me. I'm going to copy this and pretend I'm going off to put this in my password manager, because you should definitely do that. And then I'm going to choose Oceania, Sydney, because that is closest. Is it closest to all of us? Tyler, you have a...
Yeah, there's a Tokyo region. So,
Oh,
I mean,
damn.
okay. Where am I right now? I'm in Thailand right now.
Would Seoul be... No. Would Sydney be
Singapore,
closest?
maybe?
Singapore, maybe?
Maybe Singapore?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to create it in Sydney, because we want
it's close
my
enough.
stream to be as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And this gives us our anon key and our URL. So let's go and put these in our project. So in the root directory, we want to create a .env.local file. And in here, we want a next_public_ Supabase URL, which is not that one. And then we want a Supabase anon key, which is that one. Let's go get our URL. And then once your Supabase project is up and running, you can find these keys under settings and then API. So I'm going to copy my URL. And now if we install at Supabase /Supabase-JS, I was worried my internet connection was just completely hanging and actually the problem, but looks like we're all good. Then we can just run our project again, and now back over in Supabase, let's create a new table. What was the definition of the thing that we're...
Good question. What are we
It was
we're a shipping company. Let's be a shipping company.
Shipping company. Okay, so like
customers,
routes, customers is a good one. Customers is applicable to we're gonna leave. All right, we're gonna untick RLS for a second, because we'll show off why, what RLS is actually doing and why we need to use this with Supabase template. So we've disabled RLS, which is telling us is a very bad idea. So make sure you watch till the end of the stream if you're following along and doing this, so that you can see what you should do rather than what you shouldn't do. We're going to have an ID. Alistair always tells me I need to change this to a UUID. Someone outside of Supabase was like, oh, why did you change it to a UUID instead of just an integer? And I was just like, because Alistair said so. But they had no idea who you were or what I was talking about.
It's still a valid reason.
It is a valid reason. So if anyone asks you at work, why are you setting this as a UUID, just tell them because Alistair said so. It's a good answer. Okay, so I see that now when we set this type, this is automatically set
That went in
the
recently.
function. That is awesome.
Nice.
And so this automatically will call when you create a new record in this table, a new row, this is going to go and call this function, which is going to generate a new random UUID. So yeah, this will be automatically generated. We don't need to obviously like think of a UUID for every single record that's going into our table. And this one is customers. So we're going to have like a name field probably, which is text. And we don't want either of these to be nullable. And so we're going to click this little cog and say is nullable is disabled, which means that we need to have those values. Otherwise, Postgres will say, you're not allowed to insert that record. You didn't give me all of the information that I need. And we'll make an email, which can be optional. So it's going to be of type text, and we'll leave this is nullable ticked. So you can insert a new record by just passing in a name, or you can pass in a name and an email. And yeah, it will be able to create that record.
Sweet.
Oh, we've got Andrew here as well. We should just invite the whole Supabase team. We should just send out send out the StreamYard link so everyone can just join us and people can pop in and out depending on what crazy time of day it is. Now, I know that for Andrew, it is not a sensible time at all. It's definitely past midnight.
For sure.
Craziness. Serta is saying Sydney hype. Yep, we've got some more Aussies on the stream, potentially, or just someone who likes Sydney. And CB is saying, I thought it sounded like an alternative lifestyle. Yeah. Polyanimex, alternative lifestyle, an alternative career if you're joining the transport career. And UUID v4 is not that good on large volumes. Lack of data locality. V7 is better. Not yet in Postgres. Okay. Well, when that comes to Postgres, I'm sure we will bump it up to using V7. I didn't realize there were so many versions of a
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought too. V7 already? Wow.
I think there's more than 7.
Oh, wow.
Wild. Does Supabase have enums? It does indeed. Should we do an enum?
We can do an enum. Why not?
Yeah, we can do an enum.
Let's do an enum for like customer, how good the customer is.
Customer.
What status they are. You know when you go to a hotel and you get different status? For our shipping company, the customers can have status. Why not? It's completely,
I like it.
We make the rules.
That sounds great. I'm about to say something, and then you can correct me if I'm now outdated on this, Alistair. No, but I don't think you can create enums through the UI yet. Correct?
You can use them through the UI, but you still have to create them via the SQL editor.
All right. So we're going to create them using the SQL editor, which, if you are new to Supabase, Supabase is like a collection of open source tools that wrap around a Postgres database. And so Postgres is at the core of everything Supabase. And so we give you direct access to that underlying Postgres instance. So so this SQL editor is essentially running these SQL statements directly on your Postgres instance. So you can do all kinds of damage and all kinds of good. So because it's Postgres, it obviously supports enums. So we can say create type, I think it is, and then the name of our type. Alistair, you got to help me out on the SQL.
I'm just reading the chat, and I'm not sure on the pronunciation. Is it Nikolai?
Let's see.
Yeah. Nikolai from Postgres FM is saying, don't use. It's a great podcast. Big fan. Everyone should definitely listen to it. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
What's the reason that you shouldn't use enums? What's the quick, like, high level reason?
You can fit in a message this long.
I guess what should we do instead? Like, should we just leave it as text values?
No, we'll go. He's even provided the SQL.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we'll use it for now, and then we should all go and listen to the podcast tomorrow and find out why.
Absolutely. We'll chuck it in the I'm gonna say show notes, but down in the description, we'll add a link to the right episode. Because yes, Postgres FM is an excellent podcast. So we want to create the type of mood as an enum.
Customer status or something like that.
All right.
Just status is going to be a bit generic.
All right. Customer status as enum, and then we give it the list of values that we want to be able to set this to. So what are our list of customer statuses?
Oh, you got to go with the like bronze, gold, platinum. Those are that capitalization though is I'm not going to lie, John. It's a little bit upsetting. Usually, usually either lowercase or uppercase.
All right. Oops. Cool. All right. So we are creating a type. So so enums are supported in Supabase and in Postgres, obviously. But in the UI, you can use enums, but you can't declare them. So here we're declaring a custom type or an enum for customer status. So this just means we now have a data type like text or Boolean or number or whatever, which we can like create a new column that is of this particular type. So we can create a new column that's of customer status type. So let's first run this SQL, which is going to create invalid SQL query.
Is a semicolon at the end? No?
It's the dangling comma, I think. Yeah, my bad. So this now has created a type in our Supabase, in our Postgres database, which we can then use elsewhere. So back in our table for customers, if we add a new column or we can just call this one status, and then the type for this one, we can see our user-defined enumerated types sitting at the top here. So we can say this is of type customer status. And now if we were to try to like set the default value of this to be hello, it will fail because hello wasn't one of our options. So we only had bronze, gold, or platinum. And so they're the only values that we can now assign to this column. So it's a way of like applying these constraints to the column so that it can only be one of this finite number of values. So I would say that customers would probably start at a bronze level.
We forgot silver. Whoops.
We don't do silver customers. The bronze is like the offensive status where we're like, this customer's not important. Gold is like, yeah, all right, you paid the money, you're here, good job. And then platinum's like, all right, this is a premium. This is marketing 101. There is no silver. You want people to be the worst, the best, or better than the best. All right, bronze. And then we're going to untick allow nullable because we have a default value. And so this will always be set to something. And so we only want to be able to change this. We don't want to be able to remove the value entirely and the column be set to null. So let's save this one. And now we can insert a new row for one of our customers. What's a good customer name? Who's a famous truck driver?
That is a niche question.
Famous truck driver name. Oh, truck drive. Elvis Presley.
Guess wait, we have to. Why are the truck drivers the customers? Surely.
All right. Who are we delivering to?
Hey,
Who's a
we
famous
can just put
customer?
our name. Why not us? No.
All right, Alistair it is. I think that's
stuff online.
That's the only value I think we actually need to enter because everything else will be auto-generated for us.
You're not gonna bump up my status. I order a lot of packages online.
Yeah, not until you pay for platinum or gold.
I gotta just buy the status.
We'll make it gold, all right?
All right, I'll take it.
We'll add a comment that this is a difficult customer. Do not mention their customer status. They get very offended. So now we have a customer in our database, which is good. And do we have anything in the comments we should address before we jump into actually doing this. The enums, the reason that we don't is because you want to remove an item from existing enum used in large table. It's a headache, right? So if you want to add a new value to an enum, that's easy enough. But if you want to remove an existing value, I guess potentially all of the data in your database would need to be updated to make sure that that value isn't the value of the status.
Yeah, I think there's no like native way to actually just remove a single value from an enum. Like I think you gotta like delete the whole enum and make a new one. So if you've got a large table with a lot of data that references, like that's gonna have to update every
right.
single
Because to delete the type, you'd need to like set every value to null, delete the type, or delete the column.
Just like swap the type to like text or something. Who knows? There's probably a better way of doing it. And then delete the enum, create a new one, update all the rows to make sure there's no like that old type is gone. And then a headache to put it lightly.
Because I guess like for people that are looking for an alternative to that, if we had like fake status, then we could set this to text, and then we could use a constraint here at the bottom to say like, I don't know what the actual is it like value,
but
whatever it is, like checking that this is actually equal to bronze, or
I don't actually know what the like update rules are on check statuses. Maybe it's better.
But I imagine you could like modify a check constraint, whereas it sounds like you can't modify a enum.
Yeah, who knows? We're speculating. Right. Just listen to Postgres FM tomorrow. I'm sure all of our questions will be answered.
Sounds like a good idea.
Zenova is saying that we need a vector column. Not sure why a shipping company would need it, but hey, if Supabase supports it, why not? So yes, we have been doing a lot of work with AI, and we have a we didn't create it, but Supabase instances have an extension for PG Vector, which allows you to store vector information in a database and make lots of AI and chat GPT models, something really convenient. So embeddings, yes, all of those AI terms. Hopefully YouTube is like scraping the subtitles of this to work out like what the related content is and promote it to people, and hopefully we've just ended up in a whole bunch of AI feeds. But yes, if you want to use build AI apps, Supabase has some awesome tooling, and maybe with a launch week coming up, who knows, might have even more tooling. Who knows? Anything could happen, right? Keep your eye on launch week. But right now, you can create vector columns and store those embeddings in your Supabase database to, like, provide training context for ChatGPT or something like that. But for now, I don't think our trucking company needs a vector.
AI trucking company.
Innes is late to join, but is here. Back. Yeah, OG Happy Hour attendant. Thanks for joining us, Innes. And yeah, it looks like Nicolay pointed out my my dangling comma that was a problem with our statement. Hello, someone know how to solve the problem with Supabase / GoTrueJS stack guards not supported environment? I can't compile my React Native app on web. This is usually just a warning rather than an error. This usually just like is console logged out when there is a when you're in like some kind of restricted environment that doesn't support stack guards from memory.
I think there was a bug in like a very specific version of GoTrue, so maybe just make sure you're on the latest version, and if that doesn't help, open an issue in the GoTrueJS repo and we'll get someone to sort you out.
Yep. Should have been Snowman, the truck driver from Smokey and the Bandit. All right. Well, when we get to our drivers column, we'll definitely remember that we've got Snowman needs to be one of our truck drivers. This would be a good place to use a one-to-many relationship. So yes, as was requested before, to talk about relationships and stuff. there are different types of relationships that you can have in a relational database. There's one-to-many, one-to-one, and many-to-many relationships. And yeah, I think Andrew is saying that we could break this status out into a separate table, and then we could reference that table from this table and create a relationship between those two. Yeah. We Snowfree out here leaking secrets. Yeah, don't rewind or pay attention to what we're saying. Copple will get mad. Yes, it's a warning. I can use my app on Expo, but I can't compile on web. Okay. Well, yeah, it's definitely open.
Yeah, it's odd that it doesn't compile on web, because if it was like on Expo that it didn't compile, I'd be saying using Hermes instead of, the JavaScript engine doesn't support all the features, but it's not compiling on web. That's weird. Yeah. Definitely make sure you're running the latest version, and then open up an issue in GoToJS.
All right, so we have a very difficult customer called Alistair. Let's display them in our Next.js app. So we installed Supabase.js. So we ran npm install at Supabase/Supabase.js, which means that we can now create a client. And one of the cool things, I'm happy to go as deep into the Next.js stuff as anyone wants. If anyone has any questions in the comments, I've been spending a lot of time with Next.js recently. But a quick overview with the app directory, which is the new way of that since Next.js 13, this is a new option for how you can build apps. So previously there was the pages directory, and now there's the app directory. So this uses what's called the app router, which allows for streaming and a whole bunch of cool kind of future web things. But anything that's in this app directory is by default a server component, which means this is like rendered on the server, the HTML is generated, and then the HTML is what gets sent back as a response to the client. So you don't have any client-side JavaScript happening. But one thing that is very, very cool about server components is that they can be async. And so rather than needing to create use something like get server-side props and have this separate function for getting your data into your component, or if you're using client-side React, having something like use effect and then going and doing all of your async stuff, you can now just have your component be an async function, and you can fetch data directly in there. So let's create a new Supabase instance by calling the create client function, which comes in from at Supabase/Supabase.js. And then we need to pass this a URL and a non-key. And so we set that earlier in our .env file, .env.local. We've got our Supabase URL and our Supabase a non-key. Whoops. So let's copy this one from here and say process.env.next_public_Supabase_URL, and then also our anon key. And TypeScript is not happy already. Alistair, what do we do?
We're going to cheese it and put an exclamation mark at the end.
Bang, bang, red lines go away.
The proper way to solve it is to just write a check above where you call create client that's like if not, if that doesn't exist, throw an error, and that will guard, add a proper guard. But we can't be bothered. We're time constrained.
Supabase does that underneath anyway. They're already handling that error. We don't need to write that twice. Just try and use it. If it's not there, it'll fail. But yes, so basically it's just saying, I don't know that this environment variable will actually exist because I don't know whether you've created that .env.local file, exposed those in production. And so we just need to use that exclamation mark to say, don't worry, TypeScript, we got this. So we now have a Supabase client, and so we can say, we can get back our data, which is going to be our list of customers, by awaiting a call to Supabase, and from the customers table, we want to select all of the rows. We want to select all of the columns. So we now have customers. So we could, rather than rendering out hello happy hour, or maybe underneath this, we can render a pre-tag and use JSON.string if I to turn our big JSON blob or our array of customers into one big string. So we can print it onto the page, and then we can pass an additional null and then 2 to pretty print this and make it nicely formatted on the page. So now if we go back to our application, this one, and refresh, boom, we have our customer. So
look
that's
at that status. Yeah.
Look,
Gold.
It's not platinum though, is it?
We're getting there, John. We're getting there. Does gold comes with lounge access though? That's the main thing.
That's true. That's true. So that's how easy it is to pull data from Supabase or query data in Supabase. Now, the bit that we have been sidestepping a little bit is this big warning here that says, warning, you are allowing anonymous access to this table. You should enable row level security. So if we click this, it will say, all right, you've got this customers table, but RLS is disabled. So we go, okay, cool. Supabase is telling us that it's a good idea to have RLS enabled. So let's enable RLS. And then I'm just going to go back to my application and refresh. And where's it gone? Where's my data? I just get an empty array, but I have customers. Well, I must have deleted my customers. Well, let's go over and look at our customers. I didn't delete my customers. So why aren't they showing in my application?
Because you turned on RLS, John. You should clearly turn it back off.
There's okay, yeah, cool. So we go over to authentication and policies. If we disable RLS, problem is solved. We now go back to our application, we refresh, and we've got our customer. Cool. Okay, so RLS is a bad thing, right? We don't want RLS. Incorrect. RLS is a fantastic thing. RLS, by default, will deny all actions to this table. And so no one will be able to select, insert, update, or delete. If we want to enable one of these actions, we just need to write a policy. And so this is a way of implementing authorization in the database itself. So we can deny all actions and then kind of enable the different things that we actually want to be able to do with our application. So if we create a new policy and we say anyone can select customers, and then we want to enable the select action, we'll leave this to public for now, and then we'll say we want this to have true. Sorry,
I like this shipping company. Already leaking customer data.
Yeah.
We just let anybody download any customer data.
Exactly. So using expression is a conditional expression that either evaluates to true or false. And if it's true, then it will enable this action. And if it is false, then it will deny this action. So for now, let's make this true. So we're just basically enabling read access. So anyone can select customers. They can't insert, update, or delete. So this is still safer than not having RLS turned on at all. But we're now kind of enabling that action so our application can select all of that data. So I'm going to click review and then save policy. John deserves an Oscar for that performance. Did you buy it? Did you buy that? I was really surprised. The amount of times that I have gone through this part of the example, it's become perfectly tuned. I know exactly when I'm going to get my laughs, when I'm going to get my applause. It's yeah.
Yeah, you haven't done the full explanation of RLS yet. That was the happy hour trope, right? Every episode, you get a full explanation of what RLS is.
I just did it. Were you not listening?
No, I don't. No, I think it could have been more in depth.
Okay, all right. But now we have RLS turned on. We have our application, and we've refreshed, and we're still able to read our customer. And so, yes. So this is now, our application is protected from people being able to modify our database, but we're enabling that access to be able to read from it. But as Tyler was saying, we probably don't want anyone to have access to this. We probably only want, what would we want this RLS rule to be?
Well, we can make it complicated. We can just say authenticated users can view it, and we can make sure
that's
that
a good idea.
Only company employees are created as users in this Supabase instance.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So we could make it so that just authenticated people are able to see this. So it's not just anyone. If we implement authentication with our application, once someone signs in and we've checked that they should have access to our app, then they're able to see this. But that means that not just anyone can see it, and if anyone tries to view this page, they can't. We're not just leaking all of our customer information. We're just leaking all of our customer information to people who have signed in. So we can do that really easily by changing the target roles from nothing, which is public. So this just basically applies to all of the roles. If we change this to authenticated, then it will only apply this rule to people who are authenticated. And so it's still just using the expression true. So it's still just enabling this action for anyone. But because we've scoped that down to authenticated, it's only people who have signed in to our application. So this won't even get run for people who are not authenticated. So it will continue to be denied for those people, but anyone who is authenticated can now see our customers. Is that a better explanation, Alistair? Is that long-winded enough? But wait, our customers are gone. What's happened? We're not signed in, are we? I just realized we're going to have to go through implementing the authentication side of things.
Yeah, this is going to take time, isn't it?
Well, we can once again cheese it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to quickly write this.
Yeah, we don't even need a form. We can just hard code the user.
Yeah.
Or instead of you could do it even worse. Like, how bad do we want this app to be? You could just assign. Oh, you have to make a client component because it's Next, right? But I just chucked Supabase on the window, right? And then in our console, run sign up.
We can do this properly. Let's say, well, I mean, not properly, not with a form, but let's hard code in an email and a password of super secure, and then.
Does that need to be an action or something? I'm out of the loop on the new Next stuff.
Yeah, I'm setting it up. It's like you realize I know how RLS works, right? That wasn't real. That was just me pretending I didn't understand why I couldn't see the rows anymore.
Your acting was too good.
Yeah.
So we have a sign up function, and then we want a sign in with email,
password.
Sign in with password. So we want two buttons. We want one where we can click this to handle our sign up, and then one where we can click this to handle our sign in. So let's add those two buttons. So we want sign up and we want sign in. And then this one, when we click it, is going to call the handle sign up. Yes. And then this button, when we click it, is going to call handle sign in. All right. Let's go click that. Oh no, what? We got an error. What does this error mean? Event handlers cannot be passed to client components. We have a button with an on-click function, and if you want interactivity, consider converting part of this to a client component. What does that mean? Alistair, what does that mean?
I just said I was out of the loop on the new Next app.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right, so when I was talking before about server components, these happen on the server. It generates the HTML and then it sends it down to the client, but it doesn't send any client-side JavaScript. So if we want to attach like event handlers to things, like when we click a button, we want something to happen, that can't happen in a server component. If you want any kind of interactivity like that, then we need to use a client component. So let's create a new component called, I don't know, auth buttons.
Would it be like bad just to make this whole component a client component? Does that break everything?
Well, we can step through that actually. So yeah, that would be the first instinct, right? To be like, well, first we remove that unused import. But the way that you create a client component is you add the use client directive at the top. And so now if we save this, we're like, cool, all right, it's now a client component. Let's come back here and refresh.
We're not signed in, that's fine. It's working. We wanted to click the buttons.
The problem is it shouldn't be working. It should be giving me an error.
Well, isn't Supabase just running client side now, I guess?
But the problem is, actually, this may have recently changed, but previously you couldn't have an async function that was a client component. So client components need to be synchronous, and only server components are asynchronous. They may have changed this because they were working on some things with the a React hook called use, which is going to allow you to do like asynchronous stuff in a client component. But previously, you were not able to do this kind of async logic where we're fetching all of our data from Supabase in a server component. I feel like this should be failing.
You're like, where's the error?
Where's my error? Next.js didn't read the script that I prepared for this happy hour stream. There's meant to be an error here so that I can deliver my next line. Okay, maybe it's fixed. Let's see. Let's try and sign up. So if we click sign up, it's triggering the sign up flow. Obviously, we're not getting any feedback because we haven't implemented that. But it's going off to
email confirmation might be on as well.
Oh,
yeah. So this is sent an email to our user, which is john@supabase.com. So if I open this up on my other screen, I'm glad that opened up on the other screen. And once this loads, I can show you this email. So this has triggered this email to be sent to me, which is saying confirm your sign up. Click this link to verify that this is a valid account. And lots of red. Has this set? Okay, so we have an auth token. Oh, so now you throw an error. Well. Look who's joining the stream. Next.js has joined the stream. So this is now telling us, if I refresh,
this one just works perfectly.
I think the problem is that something else that Next.js does very heavily with the app directory is cache all of those components. And so I think this is being cached and then not actually making a request to Supabase. And so it's remembering the previous version of this, although then it wouldn't have the buttons. Anyway.
It can't cache on the client, like in dev mode. Surely not. That's scary.
Yeah, no, it does. Let's export out a dynamic flag saying we want this route to be dynamic. So don't cache anything. I want this to always be a fresh request, which means that we'll go off to Supabase and get our fresh data. So if I refresh, see, we're seeing a flash of that error, but then it went away. Anyway, the problem here, actually, I wonder if we're in an infinite loop. We are in an infinite loop. All right. Yeah, lots of errors. Okay, there we go. Error, async await is not yet supported in client components, only server components. This error is often caused by accidentally adding use client to a module that was originally written for the server. That is exactly what's happened here. So that is why we can't just add use client at the top, because client components can't be asynchronous, and so we can't add this async keyword. So this just causes an infinite loop until that gets fixed from React and then into Next.js. So we want this to be we could remove the async part here, but then we would need to use effect to go and do our fetch and do all of that client-side stuff. We still want to be able to benefit from server components and their ability to be async. So what we're going to do is, rather than having use client at the top here, we're going to create a new client component. So this one can be called auth-buttons.tsx. We can then put our use client directive at the top of this one, and then export a function called auth-buttons, which is going to return our two buttons from this page. So if we take our buttons and then our two functions, We also need a Supabase client, and so we can copy this logic from here. And then import our create client function, and then we should be back in the same state. So if we now use this client component here, so rather than rendering our buttons, we want to render our auth buttons component, which comes in from /auth buttons.
Do you want to put the Supabase create client call outside of the render on the client?
What about this one as well? Do we need to make it into a component folder? The auth buttons TSX?
Do we need to make it into a oh, right, yeah. So we could put this auth buttons component into a components folder, but we don't have to. We can chuck anything that we want in the app router, or sorry, in the app directory. So since we're using this directly in our page, we can just add it as a relative import. But yeah, you can choose to structure your project however you'd like. So you can create a components folder and then put it in there. But for now, we have our application back in exactly the same state, but it doesn't render out. It doesn't.
The data.
It doesn't have our error, and we've got this empty array again. And so, if we have a look at the network tab, we're not actually going to see anything, are we? Because it's happening on the server. So we signed in by clicking our sign up and then going through that flow. So our user is currently signed in, and we can see that because under local storage over localhost over port 3000, we can see that we have this auth token. And so we're signed in, but as we said before, server components get executed on the server, and the server has no concept of local storage. So by default, Supabase stores your access token and everything to do with your session in local storage, but that's not available to the server. So we have no way of, when we create our Supabase client and it makes this request to Supabase, it's trying to attach an auth token from, an access token from local storage, but it can't access local storage because it doesn't exist in a server context. It only exists on the client. So again, like we could, if we wanted to confirm this is working client side where we do have local storage, we could add a use effect, which just, let's just do the naughty thing and make this async so we don't need to mess with it. It's going to go red, but it'll work. And let's say const data is equal to awaiting a call to Supabase, and from the customers table, we want to select all of the columns, and then let's just console log out our data. And now
an empty dependency array, yeah. And
do that.
Can you move the create client call outside of render? It's scaring me.
Why do you want it outside? Whoops, not two of them.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. So now we've made a fetch to get our data. So now if we come back here and check our console, we have printed out a array with all of our customers. So our customers are available in a client component, which runs on the client where there is local storage, but it isn't able to be selected from a server component because our server component needs to know that our user is signed in and be able to pass across that information so that Supabase knows that when it runs those RLS policies, it knows that our user is authenticated and then says, okay, cool, here are the records that you're actually allowed to see. So what's happening at the moment is because our server component doesn't have access to local storage, it's basically just not sending across an authenticated user. It's just sending across basically our non-key. And so when Supabase is checking whether this user should be able to see this data, we've only written a policy for anyone who's authenticated. And so because it's not sending across like specific data about that user's session, RLS is saying, well, this user isn't authenticated. And so I'm going to continue denying their ability to see these roles. So this is exactly why we need the Supabase auth helpers and why this template that we're about to look at in a second solves so many problems for us. Because rather than being stored in local storage, we want this auth token to be stored in our cookies. Oops. in our cookies. You
Bruno
can see I do have some access tokens, but they're from other projects. So we want to move the storage from local storage over to cookies. And so that's why we created the Supabase auth helpers, which if you have an existing application, oh my God, what am I doing? If you have an existing Next.js, Svelte Kit, or Remix application, you can follow along these steps to implement it in your app. So if I go to Next.js, we've got a big picture of my face, and we can basically step through all of the different steps in this manual configuration. So we can install a separate package called the auth helpers package, or @supabase/auth helpers Next.js, and then there's a bunch of steps that we need to do if we have an existing application. But if we want to create a new application, which we can do here because we have only just started building this app, we can use this automatic configuration method, which is where we run the create next app CLI tool again, and then we give it an example of with-supabase. So let's have a look at that. Let's go out of here and let's create.
Finally.
It's been a while. We want to use the with-supabase example. And then what do we want to call this application?
It's just V2. We're already on to V2. Polyanemex 2.
Oh, yeah.
Polyanemex 2. And
while that's running, I think we've got quite a few comments coming through.
Yes. Oh, we can go right the way back. So you can't use async on client components. Yes. So even though we didn't get the error straight away, that is the case. So anytime you have a client component, it cannot be async. And so that's why we want to kind of contain any of that client-side logic to as small a component as possible. So because we only needed those buttons to be able to have client-side JavaScript so that we could click them and do something, those buttons were the only things that needed to be a client component rather than the entire route being a client component, and losing all of that convenience that we get around being able to just have an async function to fetch our data, but also all of the behind the scenes streaming stuff that's going on. How much can you style the email confirmations with Supabase? Never tried. You can.
Yeah, there's you can put in any HTML you want for that email. So to be honest, the way I would do it is using React email because it's so nice. Basically spit out the HTML, copy and paste it into Supabase, replace the little dynamic parts with our template things. There's some docs in there. And then you have completely styled emails.
Yes. So under authentication and email templates, you can also just modify what is being sent for each of these different types of emails. Andrew called out that it's cached. It most definitely is. Remove next. It always helps. So yeah, that might also help with the caching. And can we have some sort of feature that allow us to infrastructure as code in Supabase so we can easily work with production? Yes, you can. That's exactly what we were going to do before Docker didn't let me start it. But I'll get that fixed up for next week, and we'll build out a bigger app that will use that whole local development workflow. So yes, you can run Supabase in local development, and then you can create migrations so that you can push the changes of that to a remote instance of Supabase. So you can have local dev, and then you can have production is your actual Supabase instance running in, hosted by Supabase.
Definitely come back next week, though. There might be some other exciting things in that area. You never know.
That's why I was being really careful about how. Never mind. Watch Supabase launch week coming up next week for maybe some changes to our local development workflow and all that good stuff. I use a lib for the Supabase. It's on documentation. Okay, cool. And move all the things to the client, says Andrew. We could.
Yeah, that's it. I miss single page.
That always works.
Does work. So you're going to teach me to use cookies. Yes, I'm going to teach you to use cookies. Well, I'm going to teach you that you don't need to learn how to do the cookies yourself, because it'll all be handled for you by Supabase by using this very convenient template. Is it possible to pass the Supabase equals create client into the auth button as props? Pass the Supabase equals create client. Right. So that's that would, like, the variable itself, the Supabase part, is now a Supabase client instance. So you can't pass that in as props because it can't be serialized, because it's not a simple structure. Like it contains all of this like fetch wrapping logic stuff in the Supabase client. And so I think if you try and pass it as a prop, it will give you an error that that structure can't be serialized, I think. But yes, let's look at how to do it properly with cookies and things. An arrow function inside the use effect. The same problem people are having with session on the server. You get null. Yes. So we have, you are great, man. Thank you. That's so the manual configuration, if you want to step through the manual configuration, I have a course I would highly recommend you check out, if I can find it in my stuff. Oh, here we go. This course, build a Twitter clone with the Next.js app router and Supabase, steps through exactly this. So if you want to go a little bit deeper on how to go through and configure cookies yourself and configure the Supabase auth helpers and set up all the different routes that you need, this course is a free course on Egghead that I launched like a couple of weeks ago, which steps through that process. So I recommend you check that out. I'll put a link in the description so you can get to that. And
Ted says, is it free?
Is it free?
It is free. It is 100% free, and it goes for an hour and 20-ish minutes, and it is a super condensed, like, it moves very quickly. So make sure you're not trying to, just play it in the background. It's, it goes very, very quick. It goes over a whole bunch of Next.js stuff and Supabase stuff and Tailwind stuff and TypeScript. So I recommend you check it out. And yes, Inna says that you can pass a session as a prop. You can do that, and then you can pass that into your create client statement and give it to Supabase. But then you're doing all of this manual plumbing yourself, whereas we probably just shouldn't be using local storage to store that auth token if we need it to be available across our entire application, because we want this to be available in client components, in server components, and then something we haven't talked about yet. But if you're playing with the Next.js app router, you may have seen that there's also route handlers, which are like what used to be API routes in the pages directory. And then there's also middleware and server actions. So there's lots of different places that we might want to use Supabase, and all of them, well, most of them run on the server. The only one that out of that whole list that doesn't run on the server is a client component, which also runs on the server, but gives you allows you to do client-side stuff as well. So the only place that you would actually have access to local storage is in the client component. So if we want Supabase to be usable across our that whole stack, so all those different pieces of the Next.js app router, then we need to use cookies. So why was there a warning in Edge function about no storage option exists to persist storage, which may result in unexpected behavior when using auth? Not quite sure what you're referring to there, but if you want to give us some more context or open a support ticket if you need help with a project that you're working on, not sure. So we should now have our polyanimex. Oh no, we don't want that. We want polyanimex 2, which is our new application, which
sweet
we created using this. So to rewind all the way back to this point, we ran this create next app command. We gave it the example of with-supabase, which is going to go and configure all of this stuff for us. And then we gave it the name polyanim_x2. So if we open this one up in VS Code, I have to close all of my warnings again. And now, why do we have a Supabase folder?
Because
who
doesn't want a Supabase folder?
Because that's right. That's the whole thing. That's right. We used the with-supabase template. I was thinking we just created a new Next.js app. So under our app folder, we can now see page.tsx. This is a slightly different example. So why don't we run? Got to stop this one. So we no longer care about this project. We're done storing things in local storage. Let's run.
Do you need to copy over the environment variables, or are you doing that after this?
I do need to copy over those environment variables. So if we go to our other project and we open this up and grab our .env.local environment variables, and then over on this one, there is this .env.local.example. We can just get rid of the example part. It also tells us where we can go and find these values. But if we paste these in, and then let's just rerun our server just in case, and go over to here, not that one, this one, and refresh.
Moment of truth.
Boom.
Yay.
We now have this template, which shows us that this is the fastest way to start building apps with Supabase and Next.js. So you can get started like the Next.js template by just editing our app/page.tsx. So why don't we just start there? So let's step through this. Let me just move these around. Let's step through the same process that we did with the other one. So let's open up page.tsx. Let's blow away. Actually, we can just copy across what we wrote in this one. So but rather than our auth buttons, we'll have a different way to do authentication. But let's get rid of this and refresh our application. And you can see that we need to change the styles on here. So let's just say color white, which should, I think, be inherited by everything else.
Text white.
Text white.
Yep.
I've used Tailwind before. There we go. So we've got the same thing, but this is what we should be expecting, because if we have a look at our cookie storage or in our local storage, we don't have an auth token for this application. That's for our other stuff. So if we clear that out, we're not actually authenticated. We haven't signed in yet. So I'm just thinking maybe it would be, let's just undo for a second, and I'll show you in the template. We already have this auth flow set up. So if we click login up here, it's going to take us to this nicely styled form. So this is everything that you already get in this template. And so we're using the same Supabase instance, so I don't need to sign up. I can just sign in directly. So if I say john@supabase.com and then use my super secure password and click sign in, you'll see that I'm now signed in as john@supabase.com. And so all of this is now being piped through correctly. So if I now go back to, I lost it. All right. If I copy this across again, and then we refactor this slightly to say we don't want our auth buttons. And now rather than using Supabase.js directly to create our client, we want to instead make this create server component client. So because we're in a server component, we want to create a server component version of our Supabase client. And we can import this from our auth helpers package. So this template includes this auth helpers-next.js package, which is how we create all of our different components within within our Next.js app router project. So if we want to create a Supabase client in a server component, we call the create server component client. If we're in a client component, then we call the create client component client function, which is the best named function of all of them. So actually, we can keep our auth buttons. All right, let's just. All right, one more time. We're just going to copy across what was here. We're also going to copy across our auth buttons component. So let's copy this from here, come over here and create a new route for auth buttons.tsx. Let's dump all this in here. And then, so if we did have an existing application, all we would need to do is go and find any places where we're creating a client and then change it to that contextual version of where we're trying to create that client. So in this case, we're in a server component. So let's create a server component client. And then this doesn't need us to pass in a URL or a non-key. All of that is already configured for us. But what it does require is the cookies function. So now that we're using cookies for authentication, we need to get those cookies from the headers that are passed across from that Next.js request. So we need to import the cookies function from next/headers. And then this cookies function, we pass into our create server component client function. And now this is configured to use cookies rather than local storage. So we can get rid of our create client function from Supabase.js. And now this is saying that it can't find our auth buttons module, which it should be able to find. Restart the TS server. Okay, cool. So then we're rendering our auth buttons. So now let's have a look at this because this is lit up red. That's because of how we're doing this. So ignore that. But where we create our client, rather than just creating a client, because we're in a client component, we want to create a client component client, which comes in from our auth helpers package. And then again, we don't need to pass it. It's a fantastic name. It's the best name of all of the client components. I was very happy with this one. I really struggled to find like a way to clearly communicate what the thing was in the context, like because I want to call it a client. I don't want to call it an instance of a Supabase client. It was very confusing. Went through many iterations, and yeah, create client component client was what we settled on.
I think you're one client short. Like 3 is a magic number, right?
Create client component client.
Yeah,
definitely. And then that should be all that we need to change. And so now if we go over to our application, that's all white again. The text is all black. So let's say we want our text to be white.
Hooray.
Now we're already getting that back because it's already
Sweet.
working. So we could actually add a button for our sign out logic just so we can see what happens when we go through that. So if we want to sign out, and we can say sign out. So if we have a look at our cookies, we now have a cookie for our auth token. And then if we sign out, that cookie should disappear.
Did you?
I feel like we didn't pass the right method name or something.
Yeah. Handle sign in again.
Oh yeah.
Just trying to sign in over and over again. Cool. So now when we sign out, it disappears. And when we sign in, it comes back. Which, yeah, this works with sign in and sign out. Sign up won't actually work at the moment because if we have a look, because we're now using cookie-based auth, we can now do this 100% server-side, which means that we can now use what's called the Pixie authentication flow, which if we have a look at the the routes that have been created for us to handle signing in, signing out, and signing up with this template, we redirect. After we've signed in, we redirect to /auth/callback, which is this special route that is also created for us, which exchanges this code for our Supabase session. And so this is just a more secure way to do that auth flow, which is automatically configured for you when you use this with-supabase template. So rather than using this auth buttons component, what we can do is from our server component, we can render a form, and this form can have an action that's set to /auth/ let's say we're signing in, so let's do our sign-in route. And so this is going to submit this form to this sign-in route, which is going to go through and sign in our user with password. Oh, we need to pass it an email and password. All right. Oh, wait, no, we don't. Okay, cool. That's why we use the template, because all of this is there for us. We don't need to use a form. We can just use a link and set the href to /login and say, this is our login, which we can import from next/link. And now it's going to just navigate to our login page, which we also give you, which is this nicely styled form so that we don't need to think about any of this. So if we go back over to our application and refresh, we don't see any of our customers yet. And so we want to sign in. And so we click login. This is going to take us to our nicely styled input boxes, so we don't have to do this ourselves. And we can say john@supabase.com, and then the password is my super secure password. And then when I sign in, I'm now authenticated, and we can see all of our customers because we're now an authenticated user because we're using cookie-based storage for our session rather than local storage. All right.
Very cool.
This is sweet.
Hopefully that all made sense. It got a little bit confusing there, but yes, this template has all of the things already configured for you, and you can check out all of the different bits that you would need to step through if you were going through the docs. So essentially, if we open up our Supabase auth helpers docs again, basically this manual configuration steps through installing the libraries, setting up environment variables, and then what we need to set for middleware, that code exchange route that we just looked at, how we do authentication, and like it steps through all of this stuff. But basically this with-supabase template kicks you off from the end of this documentation. So this is already in a state that it would be if you went through and did each of those steps. But if you just want an application that works and Supabase auth already configured to use cookie-based auth, then you just run the template and you have all of it out of the box. Boom. Mic drop.
Nice.
Sweet,
So,
sweet.
Does anyone have any questions about all of that? We went very quickly.
We have a few comments, I think, coming in.
All right. Just wanted to say that I've been getting into Supabase over the last week and create a real-time chat application with React Native. I'm loving it so far with the local dev CLI.
Local dev.
Woo!
Nice, nice.
Should we see if Docker works yet?
I don't think it's going to work. I think you're going to need to restart your computer. That's the feeling I'm getting.
It's starting to work. It's trying.
Is it actually?
It failed to start the Docker engine. Yeah, I need to restart my computer.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have forced quit it while it was trying to do things. Andrew's gone off to sleep. Thanks for joining us. Alistair's saying, see ya, Andrew. How does the Supabase client work with state management? What's the recommended state management solution? That depends on what you mean by state management. So if you mean
the most recent comment as well from Extreme.
Does the Supabase JS client have built-in caching at all, similar to what React Query might do?
Yeah, I think that's relating to the previous question, but I'll just say it works really well with React Query. Like when I build all my apps, React Query straight away Supabase JS itself doesn't. It's a little bit more low level, but it works, really well. Love React Query.
Does Supabase dashboard use React Query, or what state management libraries do we use?
Yeah, we're using, we're trying to use React Query and Voltio. I don't know if you've used Voltio, but it's a fun little state management library, very lightweight.
Interesting.
No.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And also Next.js does a whole bunch of caching for you, as we saw at the start of this
Say too much caching.
You might not even need to worry about caching, because you might not ever be able to bust the Next.js cache. That is actually something to shout out, is when you are using the cookies function. So here, when I created a server component client, I'm using this cookies function, which means that this route needs to be a dynamic route, because you can't accessing the cookies. If you're expecting the cookies to be different between each request, then that means that that route needs to be dynamic. And so if you're using the cookies function, if you're ever importing that cookies function in a Next.js route, you should set that route to be dynamic, to say switch off all your static stuff, switch off all of the caching stuff, and just make this route a dynamic route, because we're relying on whether that user should actually be able to see this content. Because our RLS policy is checking, when we make this request for all of our customers, it's checking, is this user actually allowed to see those customers? If they're authenticated, then they can. But if they're not authenticated, then they can't. So it doesn't make sense to cache that data between requests from different users. Like, we don't want to cache that at the CDN level, because then if one user tries to select the customers and they're allowed to see them, then they set those customers, those like protected customers, in the cache. And then if the next person who visits it shouldn't see them, they'll still see those customers, because it's cached at the CDN. So you can like cache it locally for that specific user between their different requests. So using something like React Query. But if you're determining what the user should see based on like using RLS policies and based on your actual user, then you'll be using cookies to determine who that user is. So all that session information is piped through to the server, which means the route needs to be dynamic.
Nice.
The cookie with serve component server works for RSL. I'm assuming this is saying, does the create server component client function work with RLS? Yes, it does. So that's what is happening in this example. So like we can show RLS is working. If we go over to authentication and then policies, if we were to set this to say like
false.
False. I was thinking, yeah. False is a good one. So in this case, this RLS policy is just continuing to deny access. If we save this policy and then go back to our application, there we go, and refresh, we'll see that empty array again. And so this is enforcing those RLS policies, because we've configured Supabase to use cookie-based auth. So if we were using Supabase JS directly, like we were doing with our first example of this application, that the cookie or the user's session is not being piped through with the request to Supabase. And so that's why the RLS policy is failing, because we're saying only let authenticated users select this data. And so because it doesn't have any information about the user, it assumes that they're unauthenticated, and so it gets denied. And so by using the Supabase auth helpers, or by using this with-supabase template and configuring all of that cookie-based auth stuff, it means that we can enforce our RLS policies in all of the app router goodness in Next.js. So I'm going to change this back to true and prove that our application still works. And
Sweet.
ThinkVerse is saying it's cookies, so it's bound to the domain, not per route. Hopefully it's bound to the domain and not cross-domain. Yes. Let me show you the cookie. But yeah, this is bound to the specific domain. So if you sign in with one Supabase application, it will set a domain-specific cookie. It is accessible to the client, but that's intentional so that we can use the create client component client function and still have access to that cookie client side. And we can still refresh that cookie and do all of the things that we want to do with our client side Supabase instance. So that cookie is accessible on server and client. But because we're locking down our data with RLS, that means that our data in the database is safe unless that user has specifically been like unless that action has specifically been enabled for that user, if that makes sense. Does the Supabase JS client have built-in caching? Oh yeah, no, sorry. We went through that. Cool. I think that's all the questions. Alistair, Tyler, did you have any questions?
And why does Next.js cache everything?
So this is actually, there is a fantastic stream that Lee Robinson, the head of DevRel at Vercel, just put out about this exact thing. And so, yeah, I'll put a link to that in the description as well. It's a really, really awesome resource. And they've recently just rewritten their docs. In fact, I can show you that. There are Next.js docs for caching. And not that one. Caching in Next.js. Yeah, with beautiful diagrams showing you all the different layers of caching that happens and why they do that. Yeah, really interesting stream by Lee Robinson that I recommend you check out. But basically, the reason is so that you fall into having a really efficient app. And so if the default is cached, sometimes that causes problems if you're dealing with authenticated users and, you know, querying databases and stuff. But for the majority of cases, if you're just like querying stuff once and then showing it to the same users over and over again, then you fall into having a very efficient, well-cached app. That's why.
Fair
but
enough.
Yeah, I think it's been the source of some frustration with people trying to understand how it works. Not to get into state management theory, but React Query does a lot of fancy stuff under the hood that makes complex state management less necessary upfront when building an app. Yes. React Query is great and fancied.
Looks like Alistair found a friend.
Yeah. Definitely. Did we use React Query in one of our other happy hour series?
Yeah, I think we did. I think that's right. That was that one that we spectacularly failed at. We tried to use it, I think, when we tried to build an app in one session. It wasn't React Query's fault that we failed. It was completely my fault that we failed. But yeah, I think we were using React Query for that.
I've no memory of this stream. I might have to go back and rewatch it.
You've blocked out that traumatic event.
Didn't happen.
Yeah. I made a silly mistake when we first created it. Basically was using PMPM instead of NPM, and then everything that I was running was an NPM command, and it just eventually got to the point where it told me, I'm not going to let you do the wrong thing anymore. At what point do you start needing proper state management beyond use state, React Query, Magic, etc.?
That is the $1 million question, right? It's very kind of specific to your app.
Yeah.
State management is a deep topic. It's very controversial in the Flutter side as well. People like to talk about it.
Yeah. Yes, it's a complex thing. When do happy hours happen? They do not happen frequently at the moment because we all have lots of other things that we're very, very busy on getting done. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll return to having regular streams. But at the moment, it's kind of a little bit more ad hoc and yeah, just doing it when we have something cool to talk about, like launch week 8.
Here we go.
Let's wrap up the stream with some ads. So, where was this? Here. If you have joined us somewhere throughout the stream, weren't here for the start, Supabase launch week number 8 is happening next week, which is a time where we release a new feature every single day of the week. It's going to be huge. There's some really big things coming that if you rewatch the stream and pay close attention to us awkwardly saying things, you may be able to pick up on some hints of what's going on. Also, it's an open source project, so a lot of people have realized you can just go and like troll through the the PRs and check what has recently been merged. But don't do that. Just join us next week for Supabase launch week 8. If you haven't generated your ticket yet, come and join the constellation. Each one of these little stars that are orbiting around different people that have created either silver or gold tickets. If you want to create a gold ticket like mine, you authenticate with GitHub and then you follow through the steps to turn it gold. And that will put you in the running to win some super dope swag. We have some t-shirts, some caps, some sticker packs, which I don't know if I still have the store up. Extremely valuable. The $500,000 t-shirts, $500 sticker packs. It's incredible value what you will win from this. If you also want to go in the running to win some of that dope swag, then, or just generally if you want to build a cool thing and have an excuse to play with Supabase a little bit more, we are just about to kick off in a few hours. We're going to kick off the launch week 8 hackathon, and so this is a time for you to build cool stuff and show it off, and we will pick some winners for different categories and send them some awesome swag. But yeah, highly recommend you get your teams together and work out what you're going to build.
Who's judging? Tyler, are you judging?
I think judging process is generally done by the DevRel team, I think. Yeah.
So, because there's nowhere on there does it say Supabase team members aren't allowed to play, right?
Right. You're trying to line some pockets and
I might submit something, send Tyler a small amount of cash, get some of that expensive swag.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's worth that
Denova
much.
is saying that the Supabase design team is so talented. They are extremely talented.
Really are.
It's wild seeing not just the stuff you see from the outside, but like all of the iterations that go into the stuff you see from the outside. They are amazing. If you want to check out the with Supabase example that we've gone through, this is just in an examples folder within the Next.js repo. But that allows you to either click this deploy button and deploy it directly to production, or run that command that we ran. And then all you need to do is add those environment variables and start your application, and it's good to go. If you want to go deeper with Next.js, the Next.js app router, Supabase, cookie-based auth, Tailwind for styling. We didn't get to. Next Happy Hour we'll do a terribly styled app.
I think you mean beautifully.
But in this one, we actually do make a beautifully styled app. I think it's bluebird7.vercel.app. And you can see once it loads.
Maybe we should get one of the design team on, because then we could actually make a nicely styled app.
That's a good idea. We could do that.
Just grab John.
But as you can see, in this course, we build out this awesome Twitter clone. So join Zuck and all the others building Twitter clones, but build it with Supabase and Next.js. You could, have awesome users like I have, like Cooler John, who says the Supabase brand color should be purple. So that's very on brand with
a lot of people agree.
Yeah. 0 people agree. Go over to bluebird7.vercel.app and upvote that the brand color should be purple, and maybe we'll do it permanently. So check out that entirely free Egghead course, super awesome resource on Supabase, Next.js, Tailwind, TypeScript, and something that we didn't shout out at the start is if you go to Supabase album.vercel.app, you'll see this wonderful countdown that shows you how long we have to put out an album before our CEO Koppel has to give Sam, the CEO from PlanetScale, 1% of his Supabase stock, which if you click through, you can see what tweet that references. But we might have an album on the way eventually.
It's all on you, John. It's all on you.
Yeah.
Save
I
the
keep
company.
saying we. When I'm not doing happy hour streams or recording a whole bunch of launch week 8 videos, I might have time to put some music together. And so if I don't get it, you should follow along with the excitement, because if I don't get it done by the end of the year, it's actually going to be our most expensive feature to not ship, because it's going to cost a couple 1% of his equity in Supabase. So, yeah, either cheer for us to succeed at that or cheer to fail. It will be an exciting journey. But yes, if you haven't noticed, all the music that is associated with Supabase is super dope synth music, which you'll hear in a second when we finish the stream. And so, yeah, shortly there will be a collection of music that you will actually be able to listen to while you're building Supabase apps, which will be awesome. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you so much for
This is
joining
great.
us for another happy hour. It's been fun. And yeah, we will do another one. It'll either be next week or the week after, but we will do another Supabase happy hour where we will actually build out a full application using, or a full application. We'll see how far we get, but build
In
out
2
some kind of
hours.
application that will probably use real time, because we won't have to spend any time on auth, because we'll just use this with Supabase example. So yeah, if you want us to build something specific, if you have ideas for what we should build, add it as a comment to this video, and next Supabase happy hour we will go through all of those awesome options and pick one and build it on the stream. But also, if you have any questions about Supabase, about the Next.js app router, about how to design things like a 5-year-old using Tailwind, recommend you chuck those comments in the description. Put those comments below, and next Supabase happy hour we will answer all those questions before we jump into our building an app.
Very nice.
Sweet.
Cool. Well, we will see you all next week for launch week 8. Again, check the supabase.com/launch week page for all of the launches that happen each day. And yeah, there's some very exciting stuff. I'm in the middle of recording some videos, and I need to keep redoing takes because I'm too excited about all of the awesome stuff that we are launching. So we'll see you next week.
There's also a Twitter space that people could join, right? We could join.
There is a Twitter space.
What is that thing called? Is it called X space now?
Yeah.
What is it called?
I noticed they've changed all of the language around like retweeting and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it says
retweet.
Oh, retweet. Okay.
I haven't changed it there.
Oh.
I missed a spot.
They did. Maybe when you're not signed in, you don't see the real version of Twitter. But yeah, they've changed all the language about how you like repost something, or yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there is a Twitter
project.
space. We are hosting a Twitter. Are we hosting it every single day, Monday through Friday? I think, right?
Yeah.
Every single day, around morning time, PT. So whatever that time happens to be in your time, we're hosting a Twitter space. So come join us, hang out with the team. We're just gonna every single Twitter space, we're gonna talk about the particular feature that we launched that day. So it'll be a fun time.
Yeah, and I think it'll be Yuri who joined us in the comments, and Thor, I think, will be the two kind of MCs for each of those spaces. So come and meet our new favorite DevRel people, or our new favorite DevRel person. And yeah, we'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.